and thank you for taking the time to join us. The horrific events of last weekend have been difficult for all of us to process, but we hope that opportunities like this to come together, either in person or virtually, are of some comfort. As many of you know, we in Greater MetroWest, New Jersey, have a special relationship with our partner communities in Israel. So when we learned of the attacks early Shabbat morning, this wasn't something that was happening to others. This was happening to us, to our friends, to our families, particularly those living in the south, in Kibbutz Erez and Ofakim. So today you'll hear first from our colleague and dear friend Michal Zur, the director of our Greater MetroWest Israel office, who survived the terror attack in her home in Kibbutz Erez. Then you'll hear from our senior community Shlicha, Tamar Reshef, who will share her experience as an Israeli living here in Greater MetroWest during the attacks. Our Women's Philanthropy president, Deborah Jacob, will talk about what you can do to help. We also expect our Senator Cory, who was in Israel at the time of the attack, to join us during the Zoom, so bear with us because we may need a little bit of flexibility in the coming hour. And so with that, I'll turn it over to our dear friend and colleague, Michal. Hi.
Shalom, everyone. Shabbat Shalom from Mitzpe Ramon all the way down in the Negev. I'm here now with 350 members of Kibbutz Erez, of my community, ages 90 to few weeks old. We're here since Saturday night, Sunday morning, just being together, trying to figure out what's next. We're not allowed to go back to the kibbutz currently. It's considered a closed military zone. And we're here. We're thinking, we're told maybe we'll stay here for about a month. We don't know yet. I see it as a black Shabbat Shchora, of sorrow, of pain, of tiredness, of worrying. And when I was preparing for this meeting, I was thinking, which story should I tell? Because there's so many of them, and they're in my head. Stories of personal bravery, and stories of courage, and stories of community resilience and community sense and community love and support that comes all the way from MetroWest, New Jersey, and the rest of the Jewish world, of strong, solid community sense of the civil society in Israel, tons of volunteers, tons of people that are concerned and doing everything they can to help others and just not to be thinking of what's going on. Stories of neighbors from my neighbor kibbutzim, friends from Ofakim and Merchavim that will not come back, of stories of children that are scared, stories of Rishonim, our own Rishonim that are now being drafted and serving in the army, and those who are not are entirely busy helping others. The network and the connections that they have with each other are just helping them to get more and more help for others. Dealer graduates that are being drafted. My own nephew, Omri, who's serving in the paratroopers, who's now waiting to get into Gaza. And we can't breathe just thinking about him and his friends. Stories of funerals, endless funerals, and names that are just keep coming. We don't know all the names yet. I want to mention a few of the names that we already know of from our partner communities. From Ofakim, our dear friend, Igali Luz, Moshe Ochayon, Eliad Ochayon, Ariel Bilia, Nadav Biton, Eliona Estefanko, Lidor Mekais, Neorai Saida, Aaron Fresh. From Merchavim, Noah Price, Naor Siboni, Ofir Davidian, Aviv Khajaj, Shachar Kreif, Lavi Bugnik. From Horfesh, defending the northern border of Israel, Guad Amer. From Rishon LeZion, Ori Karmi, Dor Yarchi, Dan Baloy. From Sha'ar HaNegev, our partner, the mayor of Sha'ar HaNegev, Ofir Lipstein, and my neighbor, Amir Naim, from Kibbutz Erez. Yehi Zichram Baruch. Each one of them has a story. Each one of them has a family, and even the number of casualties. I don't know if we ever get to tell each and every story. I don't know if we ever get to each and every family and just be with them during the Shiva. It's so big and different from what we know. And it breaks my heart because they deserve their recognition and their story to be heard. Last Saturday, less than a week ago, we woke up at 6:30 a.m. In the sound of the red color alarm. And it just didn't stop all day long until now. When I speak with you, I see on the app that the sirens are still going off. Our first response team, a group of 15 civilians, my neighbors again, my friends living in the kibbutz, who are trained to be the first responders, got to the gate and were able to stop the terrorists. They didn't have enough ammunition, and they got help from the neighbor kibbutz Or HaNer response team. Their assumption was that the army will be there within half an hour, 20 minutes, an hour, and no one showed up. The army was spread thin all over the border. The attacks were taking first the army bases and the army commands, and only then penetrating the kibbutzim. And there was just not enough soldiers in the area, and the chaos was big. And us as civilians sitting in the safe room with kids, with no food, thinking, where's the army? Where are our people? And not understanding what's going on. The feeling was terrible. After 12 hours, we left the safe room. We were not allowed to, but I felt that I just cannot stay there with two kids on my own. And we drove out of the area. It takes about 10 minutes through the fields. I can tell you it was the longest 10 minutes in my life. The kids were sitting in the back seat, hyperventilating and talking and chatting, and because they felt the stress. And I was praying. I'm a secular Jew, but I couldn't stop praying and crying. During all this time, my boyfriend Shlomi was in another kibbutz, in Kibbutz Be'eri, in the safe room with his 14-year-old son, holding the handle of the safe room because terrorists were in his house, shooting at the safe room, trying to get in, trying to break in. And with his strength and determination and unbelievable courage, he was able to save his son. When they left the safe room after 18 hours, when soldiers came and rescued them, they saw terrible, terrible sights. They tried to close their eyes, but they saw their neighbors lying on the street. They lost over 100 people in his kibbutz. The kibbutz is burned down. They don't know when and where will they go from there. They're still in a terrible state of shock and trauma. Since we got to Mitzpe Ramon, I'm busy telling the story, raising funds, raising awareness, raising help, holding my kids, trying to be patient with my kids. And it's difficult because my brain is just all over the place. Just getting all the messages and all the support and all the love from you in New Jersey, from people in Israel, from our partnerships is just overwhelming. The amount of love and courage it gives us. I know that this period will pass. We will wake up and we will have to rebuild ourselves as a community, as individuals, as families. We'll have to find a way to move on, to make a decision whether we go back and live by the border. And I'm hearing my neighbors and my close friends saying we're not going back. And I'm not there yet. I can't think about it. It's too big for me to think right now. I'm thinking only about the next hour and the next morning. and Shlomi and his family. How can I help them to get across, to get them pull themselves together? I know Greater MetroWest community for 20 years. I know that we will be there the day after for our friends in Ofakim, for our friends in Merchavim, for our friends in areas and in Sha'ar HaNegev, and wherever is needed. And I trust each and every one of you to be with us. And I thank you. I thank you for everything that you do now, for every cent, for every dollar, for every message, for every bracelet of support, for every show of appreciation. So toda rabba, and all my love back to you. Shabbat shalom. I think I'm now passing it on to my friend Tamar Reshef, our senior community Shlicha, who will share her thoughts.
Hi, everyone. As Michal started, basically last Friday night was on our group, we started texting about an attack in Israel. The first thing that we usually do is send everybody a text. Are you okay? Are you okay? What's happening? Is everything okay? And this is where the nightmare started. For us, just the tension of hearing back from our friends, we cannot even imagine what's happening there with them. As the night went on, and then the day after, all we were busy with is taking care of our Rishonim and our Mishlachat, just to make sure that everybody's fine and they have a place to be at together, to make sure that they get the message, the horrible news from us and not from anyone else. So we will be there to mediate, to moderate it, and to make sure that they're getting the right messaging. But as an Israeli, being so far away from home, when the home is being burned, I was torn. So torn in a way of like almost looking for a ticket to go back and just give a hug to my families that is there. But Sunday night, there was the solidarity rally where we walked into a room with 2,200 people, all coming and gathering together just to show support and how they stand for Israel. To see at the opening rabbis from all the congregations that we have, different streams, just showing unity, singing a tikva with all these people, and hearing the sentence saying to be a free people in our land, liot am chofshi be'artzenu, just store our hearts, everybody's hearts. We know as a mishlachat that we have a lot of work to do here. We are needed. We need to support the organizations. We need to spread the awareness. We need to make sure that everybody's getting the right facts and the right stories. Our partner communities need us, and Israel needs us. Every night before I go to sleep, I go online and see all the lists, hoping that I wouldn't find any names that I know. Every morning that I wake up, this is what I do. But today when I was looking online, I found this poem that I want to read it to you. I'll start in Hebrew and then I'll go back to English. כשאני טובעת, אין לי צורך שתתארו לי את המים. לא את צבעם, לא את עומקם. הרי אני חשה אותם עד צווארי. יש לי רק בקשה. אל תחדלו לרגע מלתאר לי איך נראית היבשה. When I'm drowning, I don't need you to describe me the water. I don't need you to describe their depth, their color. I feel them up to my neck. But I do have one request, and one request only. Please don't stop showing me and describing me the dry land. And I feel that our community and the work that we've been doing, this is the dry land. The support that we're showing, the different rallies that we're participating at, the different places that we're going and sharing the story, the emergency fund that we have, different packaging and things that people are doing for the Rishonim and for the Mishlachats, just to show support. This is basically our dry land. And I really hope that as a community, we're on doing that. Thank you.
Thank you, Tamar. Friends, it's my pleasure and privilege to welcome our friend, our Senator, Cory, who was in Israel when the attack began. We are grateful for your safe return. We are grateful for your leadership. We are grateful for you. Thank you so much for spending a few minutes with us to give us an update on how you are, where you were on Shabbat on Saturday morning, and what you have seen so far, and any words that you might want to share. There are hundreds from our Greater MetroWest community, that's Union, Essex, Sussex, Morris, and Somerset counties, that you are our senator, and we're learning from you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dov. I am grateful to be on today with everyone. I will tell you, this day last week, I rushed to Israel from the Senate in order to land on Friday and celebrate Simchas Torah with friends, to dance with the Torah, to celebrate the joy of Torah. After years of studying, this was a culmination of 30 years since the first time I ever danced on a Simchas Torah. I went into shul with friends and then to Shabbat dinner at another friend's house. Next morning, I woke up and went for an early morning run in the old city just as the sun was rising. And then along the run, I got a call from my chief of staff telling me to get back to the hotel as quickly as possible, that Israel was under attack, that rockets were headed to multiple points throughout the country. When I got back to the hotel and into the bomb shelter, you see so many families there for the holiday, not able to look at their phones because of observance of Shabbat, and having to inform people of the horrors that were going on at a scale of destruction that was just staggering. We were in and out of bomb shelters for a good part of the day, and the day got worse and worse. By the end of the day, the friend that I had brought to Shabbat, her niece was murdered. Her husband was murdered. On a kibbutz, they locked their children into a closet where they remained until nightfall, hearing the bullets and the shootings outside. My host for Shabbat dinner, my dear friend also of many years, early the next morning after Shabbat dinner, his nephew came, and immediately once the horrors began, was called up into the IDF, and he was murdered, trying to liberate and save others. I stand here to tell you the horrors that are going on, that we see imagery of, the knowledge that in such a small country, everyone is 1 degree of separation, if at all, from someone who has been murdered, someone who has been abducted, or someone that has been called up into the military. So many Americans are there, Americans of dual citizenship, Americans murdered, Americans abducted. This is a time of grief for the Jewish community and for the larger community who loves Israel. That's just unimaginable. I stayed in Israel for hours longer, but I was on a mission. I had decided to do this trip not just to honor 30 years of Torah study, but also to meet with Palestinian leaders and to meet with Israeli leaders about the Abraham Accords. Many of you know that our movement towards a grand bargain for the region was increasing. MBS from Saudi Arabia was on Fox News talking about every day we are getting closer to a deal, and was saying that a principal part of that was going to be Palestinian security and an irrevocable road towards statehood. Those conversations were going on with Israeli leadership, Palestinian leadership, Saudi leadership, Emirati leadership, Bahrainian leadership. And so I continued my journey into Jordan and the UAE and Bahrain. What might not surprise many on this call was the degree to which Arab leaders expressed sympathy. Both the Bahrainians and UAE initially put out a statement that was unsatisfactory to many of us, but then came much harder. In our conversations with leaders in those countries, they told the truth about Hamas. Hamas is a terrorist organization. Hamas was formed in their founding charter not to stop Israel, but to kill Jews. Every time there had been strides towards peace, when Rabin and Arafat received the Nobel Prize after their work at Oslo, Hamas's response was to kill Jewish people, to bomb buses, to kill civilians. They do not want peace. They do not want stability in the region. They want terror. They're known, if you look at reports from Amnesty International, for killing Palestinians, abducting them, torturing them. And now, in a heinous act, just last week, they showed their barbarism in the most grotesque ways by attacking Israelis, abducting Jews, and creating heinous acts against those from other countries, from Brazilians who were killed to Nepalese. My trip, I returned just yesterday. And all along the way, in the journey of these last 7 days, I've been working with our government. President Biden has been so strong. He called me twice while I was on the road. He is standing strong with Israel. We are all, in a bipartisan way, standing with Israel. I've been in contact with so many of the colleagues of mine in the Senate on both sides of the aisle and have been affirmed in my heart that we will stand with Israel, support Israel, help to defend Israel. Many of you know the military maneuvers we've been making for moving the USS Forward, our most recent aircraft carrier, into the Eastern Mediterranean, off the shores of Lebanon, to send a clear message to Iran, to Hezbollah, to others, that if they expand this theater, there will be an American response. Our president, the State Department I've been in touch with, are doing everything we can to get the return of hostages. Those negotiations are ongoing. Many of you have seen that our Secretary of State just landed in Qatar, and more. In addition to that, in the Senate, we're moving quickly in a bipartisan fashion to get Israel all the resources they need with the special supplemental expenditures. We are going to do everything we can to make sure Israel has the resources they need, especially as they're expending, still to this day, resources in the Iron Dome to protect themselves from missile attacks. In addition to this, we're going to be working in conjunction to see if we can find a way to not only get the hostages released, but also to begin to make sure that Hamas does not exist anymore. This is enough is enough. This is a moment of existential urgency. We cannot do, as some have said to me again, rinse and repeat. There can be no repeat. I want to finally say the truth about Hamas. They do not represent Islam. They do not represent the Palestinian people. They are now using Palestinians as a human shield in the ultimate acts of cowardice. Israel must defend itself. Israel must do what's necessary to make sure that Hamas, whose aim is to kill Jewish people, does not exist anymore. But we will do what we can in the meantime to make sure that Americans stuck in Gaza find a way out, and to make sure that we do everything we can to assist in a speedy conclusion that's proportionate and reduces civilian casualties. Because this is what I know about Jews. As was said, if I am not for myself, who will be for me? If I am only for myself, what am I? If not now, when? That sense of urgency, that sense of empathy, that sense of strength, that sense of resolve is more important now than ever. I will remain steadfast in my support of Israel, in Israel's defense and security. And B'ezrat Hashem, we will bring an end to Hamas, a return of the hostages, and the security and the peace in the land of Israel. I will not stop. I'll be heading back to the region very soon, in a matter of days, not just to show support for Israel, but to continue the work in a larger manner to secure a pathway to peace and strength in the region. Thank you.
And Booker, I know I speak for so many of the hundreds of people on this Zoom when I say that we're not only grateful for your words, which were beautiful and meaningful and exceptional, but also for your continued leadership and your strength and your understanding and commitment to the values that we share as a New Jersey Jewish community as we stand together with Israel, and how grateful we are for you at this moment. Thank you so much for joining us. We're so deeply proud to have had you today and to have you as our senator and to hear your words. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And to everyone, thank you for your strength. Yasher Koach.
Thank you to that. It's my pleasure to, sorry, it's a hard day for everyone. It's my pleasure to introduce Deborah Jacob, who is the president of Women's Philanthropy of our Jewish Federation of Greater MetroWest.
Thank you, Dov. Thank you, Senator Booker. Michal and Tamar, I stand with you during this incredibly painful time. All of us across Greater MetroWest, we are all standing with you. We will continue to do so until Israel prevails. My name is Deborah Jacob. I'm the president of Women's Philanthropy of our Jewish Federation. And together with my partner, UJA campaign chair, Michelle Landau, our focus is to do everything we can do to support our sisters and brothers in Israel. My husband and I have been to Kibbutz Erez and Ofakim, two of our partner communities that were brutally attacked. It now seems almost like a dream that in July, hundreds of us, hundreds of you, were on a mission to Israel and were welcomed so warmly in these communities. We were doing cooking, art projects with school children, playing basketball with local teens, helping in a workshop for adults with special needs. We felt the strength of these ties, the living bridges that we have shared for decades. If you have never been there, you should know that these are very small and very special places. And if we are not for them, who will be? We're facing a tidal wave of needs that are growing as we speak. I was so proud to be on our Jewish Federation board this week when we approved $1 million to be sent immediately to our partners on the ground in Israel. These funds will care for families who are grieving, cover shivas and funerals, evacuate people in danger, and provide many types of post-trauma care. That $1 million was available to send for one reason only. Each and every year, generous donors to the UJA annual campaign make sure we have funds set aside for emergencies like this. It is the same UJA campaign that cares for Holocaust survivors in our area, builds a thriving Jewish community, and provides social services for vulnerable people here at home every single day. It has been reassuring to see the speed with which we can act because we already had critical relationships in Israel. Our network was in place. And yet, we will need to do more. It is not an exaggeration to say that we will need to do millions more. As of today, the Jewish Federation of North America will need to raise at least $500 million in emergency relief over and above our annual campaigns. So many people have asked me how they can help. I simply say, give. For 100 years, our federation has offered the collective response we need. If you are able to make a gift to our annual campaign, you will provide stability to our system and ensure we are ready wherever crisis strikes next. Thanks to one of the largest matches in our history, all brand new gifts or increases to the UJA campaign will be matched 1-to-1. We've also launched an emergency fund for Israel. If you are moved by what you have heard today, the most effective thing you can do right now is to support our emergency fund. You can send a check or donate online, and that money will be sent without delay to our partners on the ground. It really is that simple. The link to donate will be on the screen at the end of the program. In my professional life, I'm a clinical psychologist, and I understand that when people like Michal can return to their homes and live in peace, the rebuilding and psychological services this population will require will be enormous. Together, we will care for the first responders and for families whose relatives were murdered, injured, or abducted. We will care for traumatized adults and children throughout Israel. It is hard to believe that I'm speaking these terrible needs out loud. Israel will require nothing less than the full support of our Greater MetroWest community and Jews around the world. Thousands of you have already donated generously, and in just a few days, we have already raised an extra $1.5 million, as well as $250,000 that the Jewish Community Foundation granted us from its unrestricted funds, all for the Emergency Fund for Israel. We are a global Jewish family, and we can take some comfort that this is what the Federation system is set up to do. I am so proud to be part of this caring and generous community, and I know that this is only the beginning of our united response. Thank you, Toda Rabba.
Thank you, Deborah, Tamar, and Michal, and to our Senator Booker for his powerful and meaningful words. There's so much going on in our community related to the crisis in Israel. I invite you to visit our Israel at War Community Resources webpage. We're going to put the link in the chat right now, where you'll find information on upcoming events, resources, and links to donate. I hope you'll join us on Sunday for the March for Solidarity in Livingston and our special security briefing for the community on Zoom on Monday. All the details, click on the link in the chat. We're going to end now. Please join us with the sound of our community singing Hatikva at our rally last Sunday. If you're able, I invite you to stand and sing along with us. Thank you so much for joining.